Hello students, this is Mr. Damiani, and we're going to be looking at lesson 11.5 in the Go Math Chapter 11 workbook here, and this is located on page 623. The topic for our lesson today is fractions and volume. So we've been doing a lot of work with surface area, which is the distance around the surface of a solid figure, but now we're going to look at volume. All right, so it's going to be definitely different than what our first half focus on chapter 11 was. The essential question for today's lesson is, what is the relationship between the volume and the edge lengths of a prism with fractional edge lengths? All right, so we're going to have fractional edge lengths. All right, so 1 1/2, a fourth, 2 1/3, that type of stuff for our length, width, and height. All right, so let's connect. First, have to understand what volume is. Volume is the measure of the number of unit cubes needed to occupy a given space without gaps or overlaps. So really what we're looking at is how much one of these solid figures can hold in relationship to these 1 by 1 unit cubes. You can find the volume of a rectangular prism by seeing how many unit cubes it takes to fill the prism. That's one way. The other way is going to be the use of a formula. The formula is volume equals length times width times height. All right, so let's investigate. Materials, net of rectangular prisms, cubes, scissors, tape, but we're not going to get all into that. What we're going to do is we're going to just look at the picture and work through it from there as we build some of the background needed to be able to find volume. All right, so we have a jewelry box with a length of 3 1/2 units, a width of 1 1/2 units, and a height of 2 units. So we have a length, we have a width, and we have a height for our three-dimensional figure. We want to calculate the volume of the box in cubic units. So we want to know how many cubic units are going to fit in there. So each of the cubes in this activity have a side length of 1/2 unit. You'll see that right down here. How many cubes with side length 1/2 does it take to form a unit cube? All right, so in order to fill a 1 unit cube, you'll notice, and we're going to reference our diagram over here. If we go from here to here as 1 unit, and we go from this length, that's a half, and that's a half. All right, we kind of trace in that box there. You'll notice we have 2 cubes right here. However, you're also going to have 2 cubes in this direction from here to here to fill this gap. So now if I have 2 cubes from here, 2 cubes here, I'd have to also have 2 cubes on this left side and in the back. That gives me 4 cubes on the bottom. So if I have 4 cubes on the bottom, then that means I'm going to have 4 cubes on the top. So that gives me a total of 8 half-inch cubes. All right, because they are 1/2 by 1/2, and a full unit is 1 unit by 1 unit. All right, so each smaller cube only represents 1/8 of a unit cube because there are 8 of these half unit cubes in 1 unit. All right, so one of the cubes would be 1/8. I'm just going to clean that picture up a little bit here after I drew all over it. All right, so let's look at part B. It says cut the net, then fold and tape the net into the rectangular prism. Leave one face open so you can fill the prism with the cubes. All right, so we're not doing that part here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead, now that I've solidified this whole half unit cube business into the 1 unit, we're going to go ahead and jump to our formula. So let's go take a look at the making connections. All right, you can use the formula, which is what we're primarily going to focus on here. All right, we're going to use the formula for the volume of a rectangular prism to find the volume of the jewelry box. All right, so step 1 with all of our formula work is we're always going to write down the formula to use. You'll see that here. Volume equals length times width times height. Now, you want to go ahead and make your list. All right, I'm going to make my list here. So I know that L, W, H, and V. V for volume. We are looking for volume, so that's going to get my question mark. The length of my figure was 3.5 units. The width of my figure was 1.5 units. And the height of my figure was 2 units. So we've listed our length, our width, and our height. Our volume is what we are looking for. And we are now going to substitute those values into our formula. So we have V equals, right now I'm on my step 2, V equals 3.5 times 1.5 times 2. And then down below, since I'm dealing with mixed numbers, we have to do our time to add business. So this 3.5 becomes 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1, 7 halves. The 1.5 becomes 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, 3 halves. And that 2 we can leave, or you could also think of it as a 2 over 1 to help with the fraction operations. All right, so let's get this substituted in here. So I have 7 halves times 3 halves times 2. And again, we're going to look at this as 2 over 1. When you go ahead and multiply this out, you want to make sure that you focus on multiplying your tops first. 7 times 3 times 2. 7 times 3 times 2 is 21 times 2 is 42. And 2 times 2 times 1 is 4. So I have 42 over 4, which we are going to do some dumping and dividing. And you'll notice that 4 goes into 42 10 whole times. 2 left over, so this is 10 and 2/4, otherwise known as 10 and 1/2 when reduced. Now, when you enter this into your calculator, say you just put these fractions right into your calculator. If you get the 10 and 2/4, hit your simp button, reduce it down to 10.5, or if you end up with a decimal of 10.5, you can roll with that as well. You don't have to keep it in fraction form. It means the exact same thing. So the volume of the jewelry box is 10 and 1/2 cubic units. All right, so let's go ahead and turn the page. We're going to practice a few of these together, looking at the share and show. Okay, so question 1. A prism is filled with 38 cubes with a side length of 1/2 unit. What is the volume of the prism in cubic units? All right, so we have 38 cubes, side length of 1/2 unit. We want the volume. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply that concept that we taught back in the beginning, where each half unit represents 1/8, meaning there's 8 units, or 8 1/2 blocks in 1 unit. So you're going to take the overall number of cubes, which is 38, and you divide it by 8 because there's 8 of these 1/2 units in one whole unit. All right, so you take that 38, divide it by 8, and in fraction form, you would get 4 and 6/8. Oh, that jumped all over on me here. Let's clean that up. You get 4 and 6/8, which reduces down to 4 and 3/4 using that calculator. Or you could actually get an answer of 4.75, and all 3 would be acceptable. I'd prefer one of these 2 reduced answers. All right, let's take a look at number 2 here. Actually, I'd like you to go ahead and pause the video and complete number 2 after we read it. A prism is filled with 58 cubes with a side length of 1/2. What is the volume of the prism in cubic units? This is very similar to question 1. So go ahead and pause it up and complete it on your own. Thank you. All right, thanks for taking the time to pause it up. What you should do is take your 58, divide it by 8 because of the 1/2 cubes, or 1/2 unit cubes, and you'd get a final answer of 7.25, or 7 and 1/4. Both are acceptable. All right, so let's go ahead and work through question 3, and then I'm going to let you do question 4 on your own. Find the volume of the rectangular prism. So we're going to use our volume formula here. write your formula, V equals LWH, and make your list. V equals, L equals, W equals, and H equals. Volume is what we are looking for. The length is 5.5. The width was 2, and the height is 3. Now we're going to take those values and we're going to substitute them into our formula right where the numbers stand. So I have V is what we're looking for. Then I have 5.5, and you can put parentheses around these to show your multiplication, times 2 times 3. Now you can put all 3 of these in your calculator if you would like, or you can break them down one step at a time. 5.5 times 6, taking care of this first, which would be, if we're working it out, 11 halves times 6 over 1, which gives me an answer, if I do some reducing within here, divide by 2, gives me an answer of 33 over 1. So I have a final answer of 33 cubic units. Oop, there we go. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and answer question 4. This is the one I'd like you to have done as an example in your composition notebook. All right, but I will show you the answer before we end the video. All right, so let's go ahead, pause it, and complete question 4. All right, so go ahead and take a look at my answer here. You'll notice I did some different stuff here. So first of all, since we're finding the volume of a cube, where all sides and dimensions are the same length here, you can use the formula V equals side cubed. So that is something you can use. However, if you just want to treat them all as rectangular prisms, because they really are, then you can go ahead and use that V equals LWH. Also notice I have 4.5 as my measurement, but if those fractions start to worry me and those mixed number form, then I can go ahead and change those over to decimals and complete the work there as well. So you'll notice I did 4.5 times 4.5 times 4.5, which is the same as 4.5 times itself 3 times. If you get that into the calculator, you'll get 91 and 125 thousandths, or 0.125, which is the same as 91 and an eighth. All of these answers are acceptable, and that's why I wanted you to see the different forms here. Final answer needs to make sure that it has cubic units. All right, so that is our work for today with 11.5, and I'd like you to make sure that in your summary you have the key term about volume. I would explain a little bit about what we did up here in questions 1 and 2 with that 1/2 unit and how that affects. Maybe you draw a little picture to help with that understanding, and then the formula application. All right. If you have a question on any of it, make sure you form a nice hot question at the bottom, and we'll get that answered up in class tomorrow. So I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, and look forward to working through this stuff in class. Have a great day. Goodbye.